Just want to reiterate what Craig said about people coming out on the Friday night before a long weekend. I can't tell you how grateful I am and how much I appreciate you being here. I really do, and I have already heard a number of issues. I also want to acknowledge the First Nations communities who are represented here, and to acknowledge the traditional territory of Algoma-Manitoulin Liberal, and Angus Toulouse, who was on my transition team and helped me enormously as we went through those months that we had to operate very, very quickly when I came into this office as Premier. And all the elected officials and all of you, thank you very, very much for being here. I am working very hard to make it clear to people in this province that I see us as one province, that I see my responsibility and my role as being the Premier of the whole province. I still get questions about being a downtown Toronto MPP, and I got a question yesterday in Sudbury about why wasn't I visiting ridings that were NDP ridings or Conservative ridings, and I was taken aback by the question, because if anything, I have visited more ridings that are not held by the Liberals than otherwise. So I really am trying to reach out to everyone, because I learn experientially. I learn by seeing how people are functioning and what their concerns are and where they're living. You know, our geography is so critical to who we are. I will just tell you that it was a recreational trip, but last week I spent a week on the Ottawa-Manitoulin River. We flew to Pickle Lake, and then we paddled on the Ottawa-Manitoulin River. And one of the reasons I chose to do that trip was that I really wanted to get a sense of what that forest is like, because as we developed the Ring of Fire, I wanted a sense of what it was we were dealing with. And I got a better sense of that country. And so we, as Ontarians, have lots of challenges across the province. And I understand that some of those are influenced by geography, but at the end of the day, we all want our children to have access to excellent education. We want our grandparents and our parents to have access to home care that meets their needs. We need infrastructure, and in different parts of the province, it means different things. So in Espanola, it can mean roads and bridges. In downtown Toronto, it may mean transit. In Wawa, it may mean infrastructure that will prevent future flooding. But the fact is that we all need to have those investments in infrastructure. And we need those investments for safety and protection of our communities, but we also need those investments in order to be able to draw the economic development that we need, to draw businesses to our communities. And so it's my responsibility, and I would say it is the top of my list right now, to make sure that I understand what the economic development plan is for each part of the province, because we, in order to be able to have that fair society, which I think is the goal of every one of us, we have to have an economy that's thriving and a community that is able to create jobs for our young people, for people who are looking for a way into the economic life of the province. And I had a conversation with folks about some of the changes in Ministry of Natural Resources, for example, and that brings me to the other reality that we're dealing with, which is we are dealing with the impacts and the aftermath of the economic downturn. We're working to eliminate our deficit by 2017-18, and we will do that. It has meant that we've had to make difficult decisions. But when I came into this office, I sat my ministers down and I said, okay, what are the things that you are dealing with that you think are going to be the most egregious in terms of their impact on communities? And we put money back into the budget to mitigate some of those concerns. And so I'm going to do the very best that I can to come up with practical solutions that allow us to stay on track fiscally, but also keep in place the supports that we need for communities. And a good example of that, and this is where North and South come together. When I talk about infrastructure and I talk about Southern Ontario, we've got to build more transit in Southern Ontario. But you shouldn't pay for that at this point. You shouldn't pay for those incremental costs. And so that's why in Southern Ontario, I'm having that conversation about creating a revenue stream to build transit that won't have an impact on your tax base. It won't have an impact on your personal pocketbooks, because we need to make those distinctions. You've got different issues that you need to deal with, and so we need to find the right solutions in the right parts of the province. So that's the kind of work that I am engaged in at this point. We will go into a very fractious Parliament on September 9th. We're still in a minority government. Apparently over the summer that didn't change. We still have a minority Parliament. Although we did win 2 of those 5 by-elections, and there were lots of pundits who said we weren't going to win any of them. So I'm pretty pleased about that. We've got 2 great new members. So we're going to go back into that Parliament, and the reality is that because it's a minority, it's hard to get work done, it's hard to get things through, but I'm determined to continue to work with the opposition. I'm going to continue to reach across the floor, and there are issues that we can agree on. There are things that we all know have to be done. We have to have a new bargaining framework for the education sector. We have to work on the investments in youth employment. There are things that have to be done and work that needs to proceed. So we're going to continue to do that. But it could, at any point, be in a situation where we're going to an election. And I just want to tell you, I need Craig Hughson at Queen's Park. I need him there. So I need your support in helping us to get him there, because we've got a strong team, and it will be made stronger by people like Craig, who are knowledgeable, experienced people, know their communities, but also understand the political process. So I am very much looking forward to having him there, and I trust that he will be the next MPP in this riding as well. I also want to say that as we go into this period, it will be fractious. And I have said all along that what we do as government is very important. Investing in youth employment, we've put $295 million in the budget, and we are going to work to make sure that we connect young people to those jobs. Providing more home care, making investments in infrastructure, those are extremely important. But the way we do it is also important. The tone of our approach, the way we interact with people, the way we solve problems is extremely important. A lot of people, I have found in this province, are really disenchanted with the toxicity of the debate. They don't want to hear us bickering with each other. They want to hear us solving problems. And so I am going to maintain that tone. I am determined that we will continue to have a positive message that demonstrates that we have a plan, that we understand the concerns, and we are solving problems. We'll continue to answer questions as Liberals about the relocation of gas plants. We will continue to answer those questions, and I understand that. But that's only a part of who we are. Who we are is also the party that is invested in education, that's invested in early childhood education, that's invested in home care, and we're going to continue to be that party. The other thing that I want to say is that, and this goes along with how we do things, I've had a lot of questions about the Ring of Fire since I've been in the north, and I will have more as I move into northwestern Ontario. But I'm getting questions about why we're not moving faster, and why we haven't made more decisions, and why we don't have immediate timelines. What I am saying is that we have to get our process right up front. So, in terms of environmental protections, in terms of relationships with First Nations, so that we make sure that that everyone who can benefit from that economic development does benefit from it. The issues around watersheds and making sure that as we move into this resource extraction that holds great promise, but can hold great tragedy if we don't get it right, if we run the risk of spoiling water that we can't get that back, folks. We cannot reverse that completely. So we have to get those issues dealt with up front. And that's what I mean by how we do things. I know that there are lots of situations, and the relocated gas plants is a perfect example. Had we done our upfront work, had we listened to community, had we gathered more information, we would not be in the situation that we're in today. So I don't want to be the Premier who presides over a process that is rushed around something as important as those chromite and nickel and copper deposits, and then having to answer questions about why we didn't pay attention to the communities that live in the area and understand their concerns. So we're going to move on the Ring of Fire, we're going to move on those economic development opportunities, but we're going to do better upfront process. We're going to do better upfront process on the location of wind turbines and all of the big infrastructure projects that are so necessary, but they have to be done in consultation with community. So that's my commitment to you. I will continue to travel in the north. I am, you know, I'm here now, but I'm coming back. It's not that this is the first time I've been in the north, and I will continue to come back because it's very important that we not allow that narrative about how there's a northern Ontario, there's a southern Ontario, rural, urban. There are all those regions, but we are one province. And when I go, for example, to the Council of the Federation and I meet with my colleague premiers, they don't see me as the Premier of downtown Toronto. They see me as the Premier of Ontario, and that is who I am. When I go and meet with the Great Lakes governors, I'm representing all of Ontario. And so that's how I will continue to function with you. I'm going to make the last comment on the political process. So and you're already campaigning, right? Craig is already out there knocking on doors. And I just want to say to all of you who are going to be part of that process when there is an election called, I want you to trust your instincts about how campaigning works. There's a lot of pressure right now within the political sphere about technology and, you know, different practices. My contention is that we embrace all those things. We embrace all the technology, we have all of the new ideas, but there is nothing that replaces human-to-human contact. There's nothing that replaces people actually talking to each other and answering questions and making that human connection. So, you know, the fact that Craig is knocking on doors is fantastic. That is how we will win this riding back. That is how we will be able to build our team, because we will, you know, sometimes I say to my staff, it's one vote at a time, folks, you know, and I don't know if I'm going to get to all 13 million of Ontarians, but I'm going to do my darndest. But, you know, that is really a very important part of what we do, and I don't think that we will ever, and those of you who are municipal politicians, you know that you have to make those human connections. So thank you all of you for being so supportive. Thank you for your work. Thank you those of you who have acknowledged the way that we're working with your municipalities. It's my intention that those relationships continue to be solid, and I will do everything I can to make sure that they are. We won't always agree. We won't always find the solution that's going to work, but we are going to continue to try. And if our relationship is strong enough, and I said this at AMO, if our relationship is strong enough when we have a disagreement, then we can get through it, you know. And that's been my position in all of the ministries that I've been in, whether it's education or municipal affairs and housing or Aboriginal affairs. Those relationships are what make it possible for us to find the solutions. So that's why I'm so grateful to you for coming out. We've had a chance to meet, and I'd be happy to take some questions from you, but thank you very much for being here. Merci.